Recently, I've been trying to find a creepypasta that's completely obscure and I've heard absolutely no one else mention or acknowledge before. Back in 2011, when I first got into them, I was reading all sorts of tons, and one always stuck out for being an original idea at the time, and because of its obscurity too. I've been asking at different places on Reddit about this, such as Tip of My Tongue and r/creepypasta. And so far, no one has said anything about it. It got basically almost completely ignored in the former subreddit. And then Creepypasta, it got some upvotes, some intrigued, based on what it's about. But ultimately, it seems like nobody was familiar with it. Which is why I'm doing this video on the topic, to see if it all helps, if anything, and just to report it. I will now be giving you a reading of the post that I made for it on the Creepypasta subreddit, and I'll be adding some extra notes and context as I read along to it. I read this Creepypasta one time in summer 2011 when I first got into them, and I've never seen or heard about it again. I've never heard anyone mention it. It was most likely on the Creepypasta wiki, though I'm not a full 100% on that. This was, of course, when they allowed anything to be on the wiki, and it was well before they started to remove a bunch of stories after Law of the Genre got ruined. We know what fucking story caused that. I generally don't know where you can find any of those stories, if any of them were properly preserved even. Anyway, as for the creepypasta itself, it was about a most likely made-up obscure Wii game, I'm pretty sure it is, that the author picked up. The only specific parts I recall was that they started in a regular room and fought an easy-to-defeat common enemy. To clarify, I don't remember much of the original story before that part, like how they acquired it in the first place. I just want to say that they found it in like GameStop or something in the corner of that. I don't remember if it was online or anything, and yeah, I'm not even 100% if it was a Wii game that's like in 80%, more of a who knows type of thing, but my mind remembers it as that. I might be completely wrong on this, but something about my memory remembers bunnies. Like the enemy was described as a bunny/rabbit, like demonic creature. Or maybe it was in the title of the story, like bunny/rabbit hill/mountain, or something like that. I don't know, take that with a massive grain of salt. Again, I don't remember like verbatim, but like, my mind has just always recalled it as a bunny. Like, I remember reading this, and in my imagination, it was, like, a rabid demonic creature, so that's where it comes from. Again, maybe it was in the title. Something I should clarify now is that when I was reading this, it was, like, during, like, a marathon of me looking at all kinds of different stories, as I said at the start of this video. And so me reading this, I was kind of like fatigued already, so I probably wasn't like processing it all correctly, which explains my foggy memory, on top of the fact that, again, nobody has ever brought this story up before. Anyway, the part I do more specifically remember is that they said something like the game was, quote-unquote, one of those games that has a bunch of random secrets all over the place. And as an example, they found one at the start by standing in a spot, not moving for a while, and lured them directly to the final boss, which was described as an absolutely huge version of those enemies they fought. That one I know for sure is an accurate memory, and my mind again pictures them standing in a closet in like a regular looking house. But the boss thing is definitely true, and yeah, it was like Super Mario Bros. 3, like how there's that secret in like 1-3 where you crouch at the white block and then you fall through it into the background of the level and you go through and get the warp whistle, and you know how it is, like those types of secrets just scared all over, like how do you even find this, and it just like skips the game for you. They lost, and then the boss spoke directly to the player saying, "Bring me your mother." And the way that I remember this is that, I don't know, the way, like, my imagination recalls it at least, is that it was speaking some sort of demonic gibberish, and then, like, it had subtitles on the screen appearing in that, but that's another thing that could be totally wrong and me just flourishing it. This was when, even at the time, I stopped taking the story at all seriously and found it to be incredibly silly and stupid. The author, for some reason, goofily obeys and immediately just casually calls their mom over with no hesitation, and as you'd expect, the game takes their mother. Not only are you listening to a video game, but the big main villain and taking it as face value with no questions. Haha, lol. It's so absurd, yet very funny that they don't at all question how the game's talking to them, and, at the time, a lot of people were framing, creepypasta as them being, fresh young adults who have just started, independently, and them reflecting back on childhood thing, but this one was no, I'm still living with mommy. I'm 11 years old and called her over, and yeah, it's just very funny and broke my immersion at the time. And I remember a Pokemon Stadium pause at the time too that had a similar thing where the cartridge was all fucked up and red and cursed, and they approached their mom and were like, "Mom, did you do something to this?" It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why? Maybe it was the same Arthur. Anyway, I tried finding this by searching things like weak game creepypasta and adding mom to the search and minus deleted to filter out another story that was exclusively appearing. And I tried a few other search terms, but to no avail as well. And yeah, I tried different things such as Mountain Hill and Mother, and also doing the thing where you type in quotations specifically, and yeah, I haven't had any results. Again, I have no clue where all the deleted stories, especially old, not popular ones, could be. I did look at a page on the wiki that lists deleted stories, but nothing there jumped out to me, and it seems possibly incomplete anyways. For example, another one I read at the time was just titled Super Mario 64, which also got removed and I didn't see on that page. I don't know if that's anywhere else, and may only be preserved because Yuri of Wind did a video on it. Funny narration, by the way. Did there used to be another wiki back then or something? Right, so I'm wondering if the Creepypasta wiki, which again I'm pretty sure is where I read all of these stories, including this one, was a different Creepypasta wiki at the time, maybe. It's not the one that you see today, literally or not. At the very least, it was, a completely different, landscape and vibe going on there than compared to what you see now, which makes me think that, maybe almost all of that's just kind of erased and got totally replaced. It'd be neat to find this pasta regardless, though, as something that started out original and interesting and kind of creepy to me, at least sounding like an 8-year-old wrote it. Hee hee ha ha. If anything, just to revitalize this over-specific moment in a really weird summer for me that very few people, if anyone else, relates to. So far, I haven't heard any else relate to this, so yeah, I'm making this video hoping to more loudly report and get it out there. I know that this all sounds ridiculous, and yeah, this isn't a highly quality story, obviously. This isn't some sort of Clockman situation or even the Carb Solutions commercial, but regardless of that, I still think it's just really fun and interesting when people try to find weird, random, obscure personal things that they almost never think about otherwise, and then it just comes to them, they're like, wait a minute, what the fuck was this? Yeah, that's why I want to find it. Finding those things to me are really important to me, and it's just generally my favorite kind of lost media. I think it's very neat. Again, even if this is kind of a silly story, it would just be fulfilling and bring closure to bring us again. Now, granted, I think this might be totally, completely lost media. It's just fucking gone because nobody cared. And yeah, that might be the case and kind of disappointing, but it would at least be validating to hear someone say, wait a minute, I read that story too, I recall it, and maybe give some further details on it. I did consider trying r/helpmefind on this, but, I went back on that and just decided to do this video because that doesn't really seem to be their type of specialty, and, they're more so, finding actual, more tangible things that have some physical evidence left of existing and not stuff like this. But yeah, if anybody could possibly give some reassurance that this was a thing that they saw before, or maybe some other clues of how it could still exist somewhere, or just really any other sort of info or assistance, that would be really cool. In any way, there's my super obscure lost media reporting, and Thanks for watching, and stay tuned where I will probably be doing an update on the X and Y iceberg as I've announced before, based on all of the crazy Pokemon leaks that have been happening recently. It's probably the best I hope after October, because even if it might seem like a bit like cooled down and old news by then, this is a massive leak that's taking them a long time to get everything out there, so by then there'll be more info, so I don't really miss as much stuff. And, it'll probably make it less scary and less have a crosshair over my head for talking about this by who knows who that wants to take the videos down, but yeah, I'll see you then.